Welcome to the next segment of our conference. I am interviewing Malika from Miki Photo, and she is a photographer and visual storyteller who has learned to use Instagram as an expert basically. And we're going to talk a lot about Instagram and how she uses that to develop her business and how you as a small business owner can use it to help you as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. It's a great opportunity to sort of meet you and dive into how small businesses can use Instagram.
Yes. So I would just love it if you would give us a quick background on your story professionally and how you wound up in this particular position and how Instagram became such an important part of your life.
Sure. So my name is Mallika Malhotra. I am a portrait photographer in New Jersey. My business is Miki Photo. But way before I started my small business, I actually worked in advertising and marketing in big agencies in New York and San Francisco in the beauty and the food industries. So I sort of have that corporate marketing background. But I became a mom. I have three boys, 13, 11, and 6. And like many of us, when we became moms, we sort of had to reinvent ourselves. And entrepreneurship was something that was like a lifeline for me. 8 years ago is when I started my business. My kids were young, and I was taking pictures of them in sort of this storytelling way because I didn't live near my family. I was on the West Coast, and my family was on the East Coast. And it used to break my heart that my parents and my brother and my cousins wouldn't know what my kids were like. So I used photography really to share their stories, their personalities, how they connected, how they laughed, how they jumped and danced. And that creative outlet sort of became a lifeline for me. It was something that really was something that could be mine, that I could be raising my boys, but also have a passion or a purpose on the side. And slowly, my community there, the classroom, my neighbors, my friends started asking me to take pictures of their kids. And it became this business that I was able to sort of nurture while I was also being home as a mom. And it was just a great way because I didn't think I was ever going to go back to corporate. It was just a great way to sort of fulfill something for me as well as still be home with my kids. So that was 8 years ago, and I've moved to like 3 cities since then. So I've always had to sort of
Wow.
start my business over, which is always challenging. Um, but I've learned how to sort of restart in different ways and get my brand name out and sort of gain momentum. So I guess those are good lessons to have. But I've also evolved my business over 8 years where I started as a child photographer. Um, I've also now started doing more women entrepreneurs as I've sort of dived deeper into this world of networking and entrepreneurship. I've had a love for supporting other women in business and really sharing their stories and helping their branding. So not only do I do child and family, I also do branding and personal branding and headshots. I do a lot of creative collaborations and events. So it's pretty interesting to see how my business has evolved over time. And now I'm sort of doing a lot of different fun things.
That's
That's
great.
great.
I
I
uh, getting a
getting a
little
little
echo on
echo
my
on my
side.
side.
I
I
wish they
wish they
figured
figured
out a
out a
way
way
for
for
us
us
to
to
do
do
headshots
headshots.
long distance because
Right.
I find lots of photographers that I would love to use, but they're like in New York and I'm in South Carolina. So
I know. I know. And part of me is like, maybe that should be my next thing is being like the traveling photographer and it will fill my love for traveling. Plus I can work. But my kids need to be a little bit older before I can leave the house and go on my photography tour of America.
right. Well, I actually have friends who are they're a married couple. They don't have any kids, so they're able to travel around. But that's what they do. They do destination and on-site weddings all over the world. It's an awesome job.
It is a great job. I mean, you get to see new places and meet new clients, and it's never boring when you're traveling, right? And taking pictures. So maybe
That's
one
right.
day I can do that. My kids need to be a little bit older, I guess.
That sounds great. Okay, so let's talk about Instagram and how you started using Instagram for your business. Just how
Yeah.
did that come about?
So I started a little bit late to the game. I started 3 years ago. I think a lot of photographers were early adopters and they dived right in. And so I really started in the beginning as more of a creative platform, as a way to sort of visually capture the everyday and the beauty of the everyday. But I saw over time that as my following started to grow and I started to share more about my story, about my brand, that I was able to get more engagement and more followers and people asking me questions about how I did things, or when was my next event. And so I started then using it not only creatively, but also to kind of share more about my messaging, things that were important for my business, my values. So if it was about inspiring quotes, or supporting other women, or about connection, how to build family connections with photos. So just a wide variety of different topics, but all within the theme of my business, which has always been about storytelling. I started to see that more and more people started following me, and I was having these conversations with potential clients or prospects that were really engaging. And I started to have people then asking me, when is your next event? And when are you doing headshots again? And starting slowly to get clients. It didn't happen overnight, but I think over time, by sort of sharing my story and my message through visuals, there's something really powerful about Instagram where it's like pulling the curtain of your brand or your business and really infusing your personality, and it gives life to your brand. People now, visuals are powerful. We live in a visual world, and so there's that storytelling aspect that really can connect people to who you are versus just your brand name or your logo. So I think Instagram is a great platform to help tell your story in a meaningful way and connect people. And Instagram actually has 15 times more engagement than Facebook.
Really?
So yeah, surprisingly. And so I think when people see a visual that they resonate with or feel inspired by, they'll make a comment. And I can go back and forth with comments on my phone. And I think it's because we always have our phones with us.
Right.
That if you're on the Instagram app and see a comment, I'll immediately respond and engage. And then I'm like talking back and forth with people that could be all across the nation or the world. And so it kind of makes the world a smaller place, and it's very powerful. But to translate that into using it for your business, I think it can really humanize your brand. So if you share certain topics or themes like who you're working with, or the products that you're selling, or a behind the scenes, like what happens before an event, or for me as a photographer, like if someone took my picture while I was shooting a client, they can see how I'm interacting. So it sort of like pulls that curtain and gives them an insider view, and just helps your audience or your prospects feel like they know you a little bit better, if that makes sense.
So, we kind of discussed before we started recording about how people have the feeling that Instagram is for kids or for teenagers, or for moms sharing pictures of their babies, or whatever. Um, and you just gave a little bit of a rundown on how businesses can use it to get an insight. But what types of strategies would you prescribe to maybe a non-visual business, if you know what I mean? Like I do copywriting and blogging for people, so it's hard
Right.
for me to come up with really appealing visuals.
Right. Well, there's you have a wealth of knowledge, and so I think you can use Instagram as a platform to educate your audience. Maybe it's a tip. So every Tuesday I do a photo tip Tuesday, where it's really not so much about the visual, but it's more about the text. But obviously they work hand in hand. But then you're positioning yourself as an expert in your industry because you're offering meaningful, valuable information to your audience. So maybe it could also be a how-to. I know that there's a lot of food bloggers who actually write recipes out for their audience, so they're sharing their knowledge. It could be a quote that inspires you. So it's not only the education part, but it's also this motivation. It's like this movement that you're trying to make for your people. There's the behind the scenes, how you do things. It it could be as easy as your to-do list. So people kind of get a sense of like, how do you do your work? How do you work with your clients? You kind of have to think, I guess, more creatively about what you want to share about your process, your products, and your services. You don't want to sell all the time because then that feels icky. I would say, there's a rule that people say it's like a 3-to-1 rule where every 3 posts should be an educational, a tip, an inspiration, and then the one is the sales. So you should be really, and this goes for any Facebook or blogging. You always want to be giving valuable content first before you're trying to make the sale.
Sure.
But I think for small businesses, you can go and share your story, how you started, what's your why, what's your values. Share your expertise. What are things that you know that you can teach your audience? You can go and share where you're going. Are there networking events? Who are you working with? Are you have partners? Share the client's work. Do a showcase or a shout out. So it kind of builds community. I think Instagram is a wonderful place to build community. And you can do collaborations. I often do a Friday shout out, or a follow Friday, I call it, where many of my clients who I do a headshot for or website photography, I'll actually showcase them on my Instagram so my audience gets to meet them, and maybe it will help them build their audience. But I think when you do things like that, it's for everybody's benefit. And so I think Instagram's a powerful tool, again, to not only share your story and position you as an expert, but also to share your community. And all those things together, I think, helps you stand out. Because, many of us, you're a copywriter, I'm a photographer. Those industries are saturated. There's so many of us.
Yeah.
How do we stand out? And it's challenging. And I think Instagram is a great platform because those pictures you take are from you. It's how you see the world. So it really allows you to kind of share your voice and your unique point of view that makes people remember who you are. So when they need a copywriter, if they need a coach, if they've been following you and learning tips and seeing how you do your work or your desk or your behind the scenes, they might remember you when they recommend it to a friend, or if they're in the place in their journey to higher image.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. I love the idea of sharing the to-do list, because people are always asking, people are always asking, how do you get all of these different things done, or what's your process for this, or what's your
Yeah.
process for that? So, yeah, that's a great idea. Um, so do you have any suggestions on maybe some like, not a meme generator, but people have different apps or things on their phones where they can create something pretty with I see all these beautifully written quotes and all this kind of stuff. Do you have any suggestions for those?
Yeah, so for just basic photo editing, I think Instagram has a pretty good editing tool. I actually use it often.
Oh.
But one of my favorite apps that I use is called Pick-Tap-Go. It's about, I think it's $1.99, so you do have to pay for it. But it has all of the filters that you can just quickly click to make your pictures brighter, because your visuals are important. They have to look nice. Otherwise, people aren't going to follow you. So you have to beware of blurry pictures or dark pictures or pictures that have too much stuff going on. So, having a good filter or an app is important. Taking good photos in the beginning is the most important.
Right.
But Pick-Tap-Go allows you to pick a series of different filters. But what I love about it is it gives you an opportunity to create a recipe.
Oh.
So what that means is that every picture that you take, you can then use that same recipe. And I think that's important for Instagram is, not only do you have to have a consistent theme, which is, based on your story and your values, but you also have to have a consistent style. So having a recipe that means that all your pictures look the same and feel cohesive is really important, because I'm sure you've seen feeds where there's it just feels random and disjointed.
Me,
Yeah,
guilty. My Instagram feed is a hot mess.
yeah. I mean, and it's hard, especially in the beginning, but I think you should look at your Instagram feed as almost like your magazine or your lookbook and try to create um, a consistent style. So maybe like my style is very colorful and clean, but there are other people that are maybe more moody and neutral or a lot of white space. So you kind of have to, look on Instagram a lot to see what you like and then figure out how you can take that and make it your own. Um,
Right.
I think there's a lot of, perfection and copycatting on Instagram, and I'm a big proponent of making it your own and, trying to infuse as much realness as there is. It's not always like a beautiful desk. I often will take a picture of my chaotic desk because I feel like my audience, appreciates that.
Right.
And I also think you have to keep in mind who your audience is. Whatever you post has to be really relevant to the people that you're serving. It's not really about us, it's about them.
Yeah, that's very true. I have a lot of work to do on that element because
Yeah.
none of my pictures are, yeah, like I said, hot mess. Well, what about for creating pretty quotes and things like that? Do you have a specific
So
tool?
the app that I like is called Over. And so again, that app, I think it's $1.99, but it's very simple to use, like on your phone. So you just have your picture, whatever's in your library. You can download it into Over, and then you can pick. They have so many beautiful fonts, really nice fonts that you then just, write whatever quote you want on top of your existing photo. And I recommend to my clients and colleagues, use your photos and add the quote on it just because it it makes it your own. It then
Right.
shares your voice. Like you can borrow people's quotes, but if you are able to pair it with your own imagery, it just makes it more, as long as it's on brand, it just makes it your own versus borrowing someone else's. But Over is a great app to quickly and easily add text to an image.
Got it. So, do you have any suggestions, like if people want to use Instagram for making money?
So, it depends if you're a product or service. Like for me, in my experience, because I'm a service oriented business, I'm a photographer. Um, the way that I make money is first and foremost is really connecting with an audience and offering content to the audience that when they're in their journey to hire a photographer, they would come to me. But if you're a product, if you're selling a product, I think it's almost easier on Instagram because you could, take pictures of your product and then sell it through your text, or even take pictures in a more lifestyle editorial way. So it's not hard sell. It's more like it's done more beautifully and telling a story about the product, but you're still trying to make that soft sell.
Right.
I know, like, in the industry, in Instagram, people who have huge followings, they will become, brand ambassadors and get sponsorships where people will pay them because they have such a big following to showcase their product in a way creatively in their feed to get more eyes on their product. But that's a whole like different level. I mean, I'm
Right.
not at that level. And then there's affiliate marketing as well that you can do on Instagram to get sales. But I think, for the normal small business owner, it's really about first connecting and offering valuable content so that you're positioning yourself as an expert and someone that they remember when they're um, looking to recommend or even to hire, and then they would go to you. And what's really important is how they find you through Instagram. Is you should always remember that there's only one clickable link in your bio, and you really need to make that work hard for you
Right.
because there's no clickable link in the caption. So how you're going to make that sale, you can offer all the best content in the world and have a huge following, but if they can't find you to make that sale, um, then you're at a loss. So you have to, your bio is really the hook and should work really hard for you. And it's only 150 characters, so it does get challenging, but it should be clear to who you are, what you're doing, who you're serving, and then there should be like a call to action on why should people be clicking to go on your email list or go to your website. And I think with all the changes that are happening with Instagram and in social media, I think it goes back to show that, the websites or the newsletters or the email list that we own, that we have control of as small business owners, that's really the most important. Like, Instagram will always be making changes. Facebook always makes changes, and you don't really have control of what your message or what your content, who is seeing it. But if there's a way to drive through that link in your bio back to your email list and to capture those names, that's what we can control. And so, with what's happening in Instagram now, it's just been a reminder to me that I have to work even harder to try to get my newsletter working for me and capturing things. But we can control that. We can't control
Right.
a lot of the other things.
Right, absolutely. So, what are some of the, obviously beyond bringing people back um, to their own website where they can get them on their list? What are some of the other ways that people can be prepared for changes with Instagram and make sure that they're still legit, or still not legit, but relevant as changes happen with social media platforms?
I mean, I think we just always have to be listening to the trends and to the news and remember that these things are out of our control. And so we need to be able to just take control and focus on the things that are our own. So again, like our newsletters or our website. I mean, I think also it's the content. So we have to be more creative and in delivering strong, good content that our prospects and our audience will find meaningful, and then they'll always stay connected to us. So even if there are all these changes, I think if we're still delivering strong content, we should still be able to be cutting through the noise and being able to connect to people, our tribe, or our audience. I think hashtags are another huge thing that can help build your Instagram feed. So even right now, even with the changes that are happening with Instagram, I think the use of hashtags will help prospects find you if they want to find you. So, for example, for you being a copywriter, you should really, when you make your post, think about what your prospect would be looking for and then add those hashtags into your post. So it's not really like hashtag copywriter or hashtag
Right.
website copy. It might be, hashtag small business owner or hashtag, lifestyle blogger. I don't know who your audience is, but it's like
Right.
how they're identifying themselves and the things that are relevant to them. Those are the words that you should also be using in your post. So with all the changes that might be happening in Instagram, hashtags might still be the way that we can stay connected, because we'll still be searching through hashtags, and we'll still be, labeling our posts with hashtags. So they haven't changed that yet. So hopefully that might help us still stay connected. I mean, one thing I actually posted today on my Instagram feed was, there are these 3 buttons right next to your feed name that if you click, it says turn post notifications on. So I have encouraged people to tell their audiences, tell them to turn that on for your Instagram feed. So whenever you post, they'll be notified that there's, Alexa has a new post up. It's just kind of a little notification. And that way they'll always see what you're putting out there. But most people don't know those little things. So that's like a tactic that's kind of going viral right now in response to the changes on Instagram.
Right. Well, they're always changing something, aren't they?
I know. The algorithms are always I think in the online world, it's always fluctuating and changing, and so sometimes it's in the offline world that you really have to invest some time into, because you can actually control that one-to-one, face-to-face relationship if you have a surface-oriented business like myself.
Sure. Yeah. So, is Instagram a good platform for trying to collaborate with other businesses and brands? And how would you suggest doing that?
Absolutely. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, you can do this follow Friday or a shout out or a showcase where you
Right.
partner with, you should look for someone who has the same type of client, same demographic, psychographic, same client, so that, you might not be in I wouldn't partner with another photographer because it's too
Right.
competitive, but I might partner with a makeup artist or a hairstylist or a personal fashion stylist. And I often do that because we have that same client who wants maybe this transformation of inner and outer beauty or expressing themselves.
Right.
Um, so you can tag them in a post and talk about what they do, and then they can do it for you maybe a week later, so that it's a different time. So it's not like you're bombarding the same people with the same content. But that's a great way. And then I do a lot of live collaborations and events, and then in my Instagram, I'll always showcase and tag all those people. So again, even though the event might be, an in-person live event, on Instagram, I'm still telling the story of what we're all doing together. And I think, it tells people that you are, empowering women, and you're really into building a community. I think it tells a story of, what you value in your business. Other collaborations, if you were to create a product together, an e-course or something, then you can promote it together on your Instagram. I know, you could do challenges. That's a real fun thing if you want to do some kind of challenge in your industry on Instagram where there are multiple people involved. Um, but my success that I've had is really kind of sharing someone else's expertise and introducing that to my audience, because I feel like it not only benefits that other person and not only benefits my audience, but also benefits the way that they look at me, because they see
Right.
me as a team player.
Right. Well, and that you're bringing them more. I mean, your audience obviously loves your photographs, but I mean, no one person is only interested in photography,
Right,
so you're showing them that you're looking out for their broader interests as well, building
right,
that trust. So that's
exactly,
good.
exactly.
So, what would be your first suggestion for someone who's brand new to Instagram, wants to get going and started? What are the first steps, obviously, other than creating their account? What are the first steps they should take to get moving with this?
So I think, you need to really think about what you want your theme for your Instagram account to be. What's the story you want to tell? When I do my workshops for Instagram, I always have uh, the people attending do like a brain dump of all of their roles, the things that they love to do, their expertise, and try to get it on paper, and then kind of see what the threads are and the patterns of what your story really is, and use that as a filter to what you want to post. And that sort of avoids random posting. Like, for
Right.
example, for me, I'm a photographer, I'm a visual storyteller, I'm a passionate entrepreneur. So you'll always see, and I'm a mother, so you'll always kind of see my content in those pillars of content, but you would never see me post about animals or politics. That would be off brand for me. So that would be step one, is to really figure out what your story and your message is. And then the step two would be, figure out what your style is, what the visual look that you want for your feed. Is it a color? Is it lighting? Is it a pattern? Figure out what you want and how that kind of goes hand in hand with your story. And then I think you need to really look at your bio, because it is your hook, and to try to be as clear about what you do and who you serve, and include a call to action so people know what to do and how to find you. And then the fourth thing I would say is engagement. It's social media. It's called social for a reason. And so, you can't expect to post images and just have people comment on your feeds. You need to spend just as much time, following other people, making comments, connecting with people, and then responding to any comment that's on your own feed. So making it like there's a dialogue and a conversation. And I think, over time, there's a whole laundry list of things that you should do, but those four things are pretty big. It's, your story, your style, a strong bio, and to remember really to engage with your community and your audience. And I think that will help you sort of jumpstart on Instagram.
So do you do consulting, like looking at people's Instagram feeds and providing them feedback?
I do. In the workshops, I keep my workshops pretty small. Like I do maybe 8 to 10 people, because I want to have the opportunity to really tailor the content for each person and
Hmm.
to go through their bios and help them create compelling bios, and look at their feeds and show them how they can improve the visual look of their feeds. And I even do part of it, it's like a lecture format, but there's also like a demo format where we take pictures and I show them how I edit on my phone. So using the apps, like using contrast and brightening and sharpening. And then we even take some pictures. We do some flat lays where I have that, white poster board. Well, it's only 99 cents. It's like the best thing that you can do for Instagram, because you can just lay it near a window and take, things that represent your brand and take pictures of it. It's very simple. Like I'm a huge book reader and I love books and I love journals. And so sometimes I'll showcase like the book that I'm reading. I'll put it on the white poster board, and I'll just throw some pencils and paper clips and maybe a journal so that it tells the story of like, I'm an entrepreneur. I work from home. I'm reading and I'm working. And I'll take a picture of it, just with my iPhone. Quickly take a picture, and then I'll post it. And I'll talk about what I'm reading and why am I reading it. Or if there's a quote that is, can help someone else, I'll share that.
Right.
But you have to remember about the content. Like always taking pictures. I'm always like, if I'm at a networking event, I'll take a picture of, any of the marketing materials that talks about what the event is, so that I can share that with my audience so that they know I'm always trying to better myself. I'm always trying to connect with people. So there's so many opportunities to share your story, really, from simple things in your office that you can take a picture, your to-do list, your desk, to, delivering. What does your product look like when you deliver? Is it wrapped in a bow in a bag, like taking a picture of that. Uh, so it's endless, but I think because there's so many options, people sometimes get paralyzed because then they don't know what to do.
Right. Right. So do you offer this workshop only live and in person, or is it something you do online too?
Right now it's live and in person. I'm sort of afraid of the whole webinar world and going big like that. I feel like the world is so virtual now that it's refreshing to me to be in a room with people and
Right.
have a conversation live and see the connections that not only to me and to the content but within each other. Um, but for now, this is kind of how I want to play this game of,
Right.
teaching and doing workshops, but maybe in the future I'll jump into the virtual webinar.
So it's funny that you say that you're scared of the online side, because I'm scared of the live side. But I would really like to do some workshops. How did you get started into that, and how do you get your clients for live workshops?
So it's interesting because I've always been behind the camera, right? That's where I've always been comfortable. And in the last 2 years, I have really started shifting my business to offer these workshops. So I do a vision boarding workshop, and I do an Instagram workshop, and I'm also now partnering with some other women and doing like a bigger sort of social media workshop.
Oh, wow.
And I think, it all started because I joined this women's networking group, a local group, and I became a leader in the group somehow. The opportunity fell in my lap, and I became a leader, and I was leading the monthly discussions with this group. And so it was evolving. I was already leading these monthly discussions. And then when I sort of decided not to be the leader in that group, but still active in the group, then I was like, I can start doing things on my own. Um, and I had always wanted to do a vision boarding for myself. I'd never done it. And so I invited some girlfriends over with wine. I called it Vision and Vino. And it was so much fun. And then the next thing I knew, because the word had spread, people were asking me, when is your next workshop? And I was like, when's my next workshop? So that was my first leap into the workshop world. And then when people started seeing my Instagram and seeing how I integrated Instagram with Facebook with my blog and then my website, then I started getting a lot of questions about Instagram, and it just was a natural, I guess, transition for me as a photographer that
Right.
Instagram was like a platform that I could really talk about creatively and then also from a business perspective. So
Yes.
last year was a big year for me to kind of move away from behind the lens and into front. And so keeping it small has made, I guess, feels comfortable for me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that the whole, I feel like there's so many people out there in the virtual world. It's so crowded. And I'm afraid of just being just another one,
Right.
if that makes any sense. I feel like I can make more impact going small. And I know that's like kind of against what a lot of people think, but for me, that small group setting, there's a lot of power to it. I feel like you can make strong connections and you can see the difference and the impact that whatever you're teaching is making.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
love it.
Love it. Okay,
Okay,
well,
well,
our
our
time is
time is
just
just
about up.
about up.
If there is
There's
anything
anything
else that
else?
you'd like to share, the floor is yours.
So I guess I would say that I know a lot of people are on Instagram, but maybe they're dabbling on it, maybe not really using it for business purposes. And I would say they shouldn't be afraid of it. I think, it's not just for kids or tweens and teens. I think it's an opportunity to share your story in a creative way. And you would be surprised that your audience wants to learn and know more about you. I think it's harder to do that on a blog or on Facebook, but there's something about Instagram because it's one visual at a time that it allows for this conversation that you can have through pictures with people in your industry or your audience or prospects or even your clients. Um, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I have had success reaching out to leaders in the industry that I would never think would respond, like authors, and all of a sudden they're responding to me, and it's like, wow, they took the time to do that. But it's that feeling of connection that I
Right.
think Instagram allows for. There's a visual storytelling, but then there's that immediate engagement that you can connect people in your community or clients that can really be powerful for small business. Um, so I would definitely recommend people to try it and be clear on the message that you want to send and be clear on sort of visually your style, and avoid being random or blurry images and take the time to take good pictures, if you can, and invest in maybe in some of those apps that we talked about to kind of create that integrated cohesive feel
I love
and
that.
have fun with it.
Don't be random. Don't
Yeah,
be random and have fun.
fun. I mean, I think it's a fun platform. It's a creative platform, so you can't, don't expect too much from it, but you'd be surprised at what you can get from
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with us today, and I look forward to everybody learning a ton from you. And maybe we'll see you soon on online so that all of our students all over the place can benefit from your workshop.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to chat with you and share sort of what I know and what has worked